This whole new series that we're starting today is navigating life in the middle, faith fulfillment, and finding your paths. This first episode is going to be talking about the career aspect of navigating the middle. We can definitely speak on that and how our careers, our paths, and where we're at right now, right? We're in our mid 20s to late 30s, right? Just trying to figure out where our place is in the world and focus on that while we're also trying to live, survive, pay our bills, our utilities, all the things, and how to find fulfillment in that. So, with that, our first episode is talking about defining success beyond the career ladder.
Welcome to No More Sunday Scaries, a podcast for women navigating the chaos of life, love, and work, all while keeping Jesus at the center.
If you're in the middle and figuring out what's next, this is your safe space to laugh, learn, and lean into God's plan for your life.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Sydney. Together, we're here to unpack those difficult questions, tackle the what am I doing with my life moments, and remind you that you're never alone in this journey.
So grab your coffee and let's kick those Sunday Scaries to the curb.
Because with faith, community, and a little bit of fun, the work week doesn't have to be so scary. Let's dive in. We're going to be talking about defining success beyond the career ladder. We're going to be looking at the idea of career success, which can mean many things. We're going to be talking about how our career path, our education career path, I know Emily has had a change in career paths that she can speak on with her education and now what she actually does. And then kind of figuring out how our faith will play a role in this and finding fulfillment beyond our careers, especially if we feel like our career is just not our calling, but it's just where we're at in the middle, right? And Emily, let's just start with you and your story and how you transitioned from your education, what you graduated with, to what you're doing now.
I feel like I've been in the middle for a hot minute. When we
Yeah.
talked about navigating life in the middle, I think I say that a lot because
Mhm.
I'm 34. I am the one in my mid 30s, and we've been in the middle for a while. When is it going to be over? I've had a couple, maybe two career pivots. I got my undergrad degree in elementary education. I wanted to be an elementary school teacher, honestly, since kindergarten. I'd always wanted to be a teacher, went to college, got my degree in elementary education, and then I student taught. And I will say this, anyone who has an education degree, you can relate to this. I am so glad that they make you student teach.
Mhm.
Because yes, the classroom stuff in your courses is great information, but when you student teach, you get in there and you are like, oh, these kids. And I'm not teaching a bunch of me's. I'm teaching like one of me who is now annoying because I'm older, who wants to be the like taking the names and like teacher's pet.
Yeah.
And then you've got the bad kids who won't sit down and be quiet.
Yeah.
And then you've got everything in between. You get into the classroom and you realize, hey, is this for me or is this not? And of course, it's just a test because when you get your own classroom, it's a little bit different. I digress. But student teaching was a really great experience. And it made me think, I love teaching, but I don't know if I want to be a teacher because everything else outside of that, I'm not a big fan. After I graduated, I started working full time in the corporate world at a medical billing company.
Okay, Queen.
I don't know nothing about medical or billing. I have a elementary education degree. So my math goes as high as sixth grade because that's what we were taught.
Yeah.
Obviously, I took things beyond that, but
Right.
my friend was like, hey, I'm going to this interview. Want to go with me? So I'm like, I've got nothing to do. I've graduated. I've got to make money. Got a job at a medical billing company and knew that this was not something I wanted to do, but it was, I'm going to do this until I feel called to teach.
Yeah.
Well, that call never came. I never felt passionate to get back into the classroom. And so I just hung out in the corporate world for a couple years. Well, when I was working in the corporate world, I remembered when was I the happiest back in
Hmm.
college. And I went back to when I was involved, when I
Hmm.
was an RA, when I was in a sorority, when I was doing those things. I love that.
Hmm.
And I was like, I want to go and I want to work at a higher ed institution. Of course, you don't realize people work there to get to college. And you're like, wait a
Right.
minute, you do this for a living?
People actually run this thing.
Right. I just showed up and kind of expect, like, there's teachers and professors, but
Right.
it's all the other, like, staff members that you don't really know about. There are people that run the halls, there are people that run the organizations. I look back to that and for the most part, to have a degree or to work in higher education as a staff member in student affairs, you got to have a master's. Made the decision to go back to school full time, and I went to LSU and I was a graduate assistant in housing. I got my master's degree in higher education administration. And then from there, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Mhm.
I am going back. I'm working in housing. Again, that's where I got into the personality assessments and got comfortable presenting and
Yeah.
really just stepped into my own. Then I worked at the University of Alabama for 3.5 years as an area coordinator there in housing.
Yeah.
Then moved over to Mississippi State housing, and then now I've transitioned into student conduct at a higher ed institution. And so
Yeah.
a couple different pivots, but the most pivotal one was when I was in the corporate world and I said, she is not a corporate girly.
Yeah.
That's just not
Yeah.
me. Like, I want to be a teacher, but I don't really want to work with kids. I want to
Yeah.
be in education. What does that look like? So that was a really big decision for me. Of course, I was blessed. I was able to save up a lot of money
Yeah.
while I was working full time in corporate and just throwing at my savings. So then whenever I went to grad school, I was able to be focused there. But it's been one of the most rewarding things because in my master's degree, I really learned who I was. I've gotten to my own. I think about before that, I would have never done something like this. Like, I would never be talking like I'm talking on a podcast. It's just those experiences, even though it's like I wish I would have known before and I would have gone to grad school right after undergrad, but it's those experiences make us who we are. And
Yes.
if I would have, I may not have appreciated it as
Mhm.
much as I do. I know I wouldn't have appreciated it as much as I do now. That's enough about me and my journey.
Yeah.
Sydney, what about you? What has been your journey when it
Yeah.
comes to maybe climbing the ladder or success outside of the ladder?
For me, I have so I've only been a professional for a short period of time. Um, in a sense, like I'm literally 28. I haven't seen the world yet, and I definitely am not a 28-year-old who tries to, so don't come at me. When I was in my undergrad, I studied social sciences with a focus in political science. I really thought I wanted to go to DC, work on the Hill, do all the things. I loved just the aspects of politics. So I studied that in my undergrad. I was president of my sorority, and so I was able to go to DC and actually be like a student lobbyist, and really thought that that was like still what I wanted to do. And then I graduated in 2019, December as well. And then a few months later, literally the world shut down. Was kind of lost. Like I didn't know what to do because obviously, like the Hill was frozen as well. Like they weren't doing any hiring or anything like that. I mean, they were literally on recess for like the first few weeks just because everyone was just trying to figure out like what do we do. So that really like switched where do I go from here? Well, what's a career that could definitely help me if another pandemic like this were to happen again? And I was like, everyone's still going to need marketing for their companies. Everyone's still going to need communication for their companies. Yes, it's still not promised our jobs. It's not like you need 20 million people to make an Instagram video. There's always going to be, even if it's like, what's the work called? Like little side gigs or like anything like that. There's still going to be those opportunities where people are still going to need someone to help them run their social media. So during that time, I was trying to figure out, we're still in COVID. I came back to my hometown, and I enrolled in the Masters of Arts and Communication Studies program to really focus on that. Did that for a year, ended up getting the overall program graduate, dean's list, president's list. So I really tried to like push myself harder than I did in undergrad because undergrad, obviously, we had a ton of different influences, especially being in Greek life. That world, that scene is just a little bit different. And so in my master's program, I really tried to define myself and like push myself in a different way and almost like rebrand myself because here I was in my undergrad. I'm thinking in like marketing and communications terms, which is annoying, but here I was in undergrad wanting to do politics, and then now I'm like having to rebrand myself and focus on marketing and communications. This is great to do from anywhere. And with my husband being in medical school, who knows where we're going to be. And so all of these opportunities in marketing and communications, there's a ton of opportunities where you could work from anywhere. So that was like another reason why. So it was like logistics why I chose this route. Plus, I love to, be creative, have an eye for design, things along those lines. I love interior design. I love getting creative and just looking at new things. I'm always on Pinterest. Pinterest is not lost, by the way. Everyone still uses it. Get on it if you're not on it. But once I graduated my master's program, I then moved to the great state of Mississippi, which debatable. And then with my husband, who is in medical school at William Carey, but was placed in Columbus for his clinical rotations. So now we are here doing all of that. And now I work at Mississippi State University, work in the Housing and Residence Life Department, do the marketing communications for them. That's how I transitioned. I felt like I wanted to find something a little more stable while I was in this middle ground, this period of unknown, because there's a lot of unknowns in my world right now, with just my husband going through his final year of medical school. He's currently going through interviews for residency. So there's just like a lot of like unknowns. If he matches in March, if he does match in March, where do we go? From the time between March to June, it's kind of like there's a time period in June where all of the residents transition to their new jobs. There's just a lot of unknown of like where I'm going to be with my career, my job. My career path has definitely not been straight either. There's just been a lot of unknowns just from COVID to graduating with my master's to then moving to a whole new state with no family, friends, or anyone who live in the state. It's definitely been a learning curve for me. Finding fulfillment in it all has kind of been like, it's fun. It's kind of like exciting to not know, but to know that God has a hand in it and that everything's going to end up being okay either way. And it's been rewarding and peaceful to know because during that whole time of like trying to figure out my career path, there's been a lot of like conversation with God, like why do I have to wait this long? Everyone else gets that job. Everyone else gets that go in that big break, and I'm still here at my parents' house doing writing a 15-page paper that's literally like a warm-up paper that's not even like the biggest paper that you write in master's programs. There were a lot of like, what am I doing with my life during that time? I think having to rely so much on God throughout that whole situation has led me to now where it's like, yes, there's unknowns in my life right now, but honestly, I'm kind of okay with it. Like, it's the fun of it all. It's exciting. It's new. It's it's fresh wherever we go. Like it's like a fresh start. I try not to think about it too much because then I will get caught up in it. Like a puzzle, we're trying to find the piece that we're looking for in order to complete the picture. I really do think like navigating life in the middle is like prime time to figure things out, make sure what you're doing is what you're wanting to do, get your life straight maybe before you're married or before you have kids or before you buy that house or buy that car or anything like that. I think that this is just like a prime time because like at this point your brain has finally developed. We can actually finally hopefully make like decent decisions. Back then before age of 25, who knows what we were making because our brain was not fully developed. Once your brain is fully developed, you just see differently and you process things differently.
Hindsight's 2020, but when you're in the middle
Hmm.
of either that period of life or in the middle of the decision, you can't always see the end. You're like, I just can't wait to get to the end, but like, what's the decision? I don't think people would describe me as a super decisive person. I'm determined, but I'm very indecisive because I'm like, what if this? What if this? I'm analyzing everything. But every step that I just mentioned of my path,
Hmm.
I have had a piece.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean the first time the thought popped in my head, I'm like, let me go back to grad school. I was like, oh, I have a piece about this. When I did my grad school, there were two schools that were I was deciding between, and I had this moment of like, this is where I'm supposed to go. And I never looked back, and I'm so thankful. When you feel it once, when you know what that piece is like, you're searching for that. Because
Yeah.
then, whenever I had my full time, now I know the piece is going to come, but when I'm in the in between,
Yeah.
it's frustrating. And so, but it kind of goes to that when we talk about discernment of it is a muscle.
Yeah.
It's not like a God, do I go left or right? Because then
Hmm.
if he's like go right, I'm like, well, God, was that you or was that me? You know?
Right.
And he's like, you literally asked me to tell you. And I'm still
Right.
not listening. But it's just this inner peace when I've had to make a pivot. Because again, I know when we pivot, some pivots, some opportunities are going to present themselves and you're going to have to say no.
Yeah.
Or they have a nice little bow
Yeah.
and all signs are leading you to this is the decision. But then when you like do the work with yourself and maybe you consult with your inner circle, and if you're still confused, like they say, if you think a guy's into you and you're confused, he's not. Like
Right.
it's clear if he's into you or not. So like if you're still confused, maybe you need to do a little bit more, or maybe it's not for you. Because
Yeah.
recently I had a opportunity presented itself, and I'm like, well, all signs are leading me to go this way.
Yeah.
But I had this feeling of like, I don't know. And then when I decided, I don't think this is for me, peace.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was like I made the decision and then I didn't turn back.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I still talked with my friends and I talked to Sydney about it. But
Yeah.
when you're making decisions, like search for that peace, but you have to work on it. Like you have to
Yeah.
be, again, we've talked about this before, but the closer I am with the Lord, the quicker that is and the more my discernment. So that's just been my experience of like when I have pivoted or when I've had like an unconventional career path, he's been guiding me. And it's easy to
Yeah.
say that. Well, yeah, he was. During then, I was still, I don't know what you want me to do, Lord. And that doesn't make you a
Right.
bad Christian when you're questioning it, but it's just natural. There is no perfect path. It's going to be specific to you.
Yeah. And I think too, like it sets it up for the future because again, who knows if this is what is for us now is going to be for us down the road because we've gone through it before. It's easier to walk through it then later, right? Let me try to figure out. I'm getting that discernment. I'm getting that feeling of like maybe it's time for me to move on, or maybe it's time for me to change my path. I've had this feeling before, and when I did this, like I was able to just talk through it, and then I was able to make my decision. Now maybe I'm looking for that new opportunity or that new creative outlet. What does that like what am I drawn to? So, okay, like I've had to figure out like what I'm drawn to, like what is exciting, what fulfills me, what is going to be faith led, what am I not going to do that's just going to take me away further from the Lord or the moment that we're going through now of like life in the middle, like I said, I feel like it sets you up for those future moments that you could have that you just never know. I mean, I think we can all say that again, like COVID happened and like we literally were like people were changing their career. I mean, my mom literally was in HR as an executive director for 15 to 20 years and now is just like straight teaching college courses. There's just so much change that can happen. And even at a later stage in your life, that you're just like, what do we do now? Even my dad, he worked in higher education as well for a long time, and now he works for our city, doing a lot of like the travel and tourism things. There's just like different aspects that just you just never know like what's gonna come about. I think if you allow it, the devil can definitely use it to put fear and anxiety and stress into your life. But if you are able to, and I saw this today, and I wish knew what account it was. It was like, if you don't fill your mind with good things, like if you don't fill your mind with the Lord, if you don't read your Bible, do all the things, the devil will fill it with stress and anxiety. And I was like, wow, so true because literally me right now, and I have not been in the Word, if I'm being quite honest, lately. I feel like it's crucial to not let the devil put stress, anxiety, and fear into our minds when we're navigating this space of in the middle, just because it can deter us. It can put questions in our mind that don't need to be there. It could definitely put thoughts in our mind that don't need to be there. It can make us feel like maybe we're lesser than or we're not worthy of maybe where we're currently at. We can start feeling imposter syndrome and things along those lines. And so I think the thing is it's so crucial during this time that you're navigating in the middle to get into the word. And like, I need this for myself because of the unknowns that are out there and how you can get wrapped up in the depths of that. And so I think that it's just important to make sure that when you do start feeling stress, anxiety, or anything like that, definitely like, I mean, we've created um playlist on Spotify for you guys. So you can definitely go and listen to those. Listen to this podcast when you just need two girly friends to talk to. Definitely come and talk to us on our TikTok, Instagram, because we're here to also navigating life in the middle. And I'm can tell you, at least for me, like if you're ever feeling, down or, sad, anything like that, I can tell you that I've been there as well. Even at age 28, I know I haven't seen a lot, but I have definitely felt a lot. And so just know that you're not alone and that there's people out there who love you and care for you. So when you're feeling like I'm in this career path of like, I don't know what I'm doing, just know that at least two girls have definitely been in that position too, and we know what you're struggling with. But don't allow for the devil to put those thoughts and things in your mind.
Isn't this a saying of an idle mind is the devil's playthings or something
Yes.
like that?
Yeah.
And so, not to say like get a busy mind, but what are you filling it with?
Yeah.
And if you're just stagnant, the devil, the enemy is going to use that.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point of sometimes it can feel isolating. I just mentioned I feel like I have been I think I'm like the mayor of Middletown sometimes. I mean, I've got a cozy spot in the middle.
Yeah.
I am a part of the town commission or town committee,
Yeah.
whatever, because I've been here for a hot minute, or it feels like a long time. And there's also different stages of being in the middle.
Yeah.
And I say that because I'm talking to the girl who is maybe in their mid 30s,
Hmm.
who is single and is not married and does not have children.
Hmm.
And I'm speaking to her because that is me.
Hmm.
And it can feel isolating. And that is not to say anybody else who doesn't identify with this is not isolating, but I'm talking to you who is in that stage
Yeah.
because you get on Facebook, you look around, and people around you are getting married. And
Yeah.
you get into the comparison game of, why don't I deserve this? Or like, why
Yeah.
is God withholding for me?
Yep.
Or, you see your friends who have children and you're like, I haven't even started the race yet. Like, you're on the finish line. I've been sitting at the starting line
Yeah.
for quite a while. And so it can be isolating.
Hmm.
I am not saying this as someone who's figured it out.
Hmm.
Every single day, I struggle with this. It feels so lonely because you talk with your friends that are married, or you talk with your friends that are dating someone, or you talk with your friends, and it can be so easy. Like, the enemy, that is one of the biggest lies that the enemy tells me. Like, he knows my pain point there, and he
Hmm.
talks to me. That girl isn't in the word as much as you. Also, why is the enemy telling me that? Because I don't know how much he's in the word.
Right.
But I just use that of like, what, God, I don't deserve this. Like, I'm not doing
Hmm.
this and that. I just encourage you, if you feel that isolation, talk to somebody about it and try
Yeah.
to find someone who is in the same stage of life as you. And I
Hmm.
say that, and even if it is, girl, you're in your mid 30s, even if it is someone who is younger than you,
Yeah.
because that might be the case. And I say that because a couple years ago when I moved to Starkville, I started to get a lot of friends who were younger than me, and I started to get a complex about it. I was like, why are all my friends about like 10 years younger than me, 5 years younger than me? And I realized it was because, yes, we were different ages, but we were in the same stage of life. Like,
Yeah.
they were either dating or like they were single. And so I started to get a complex about, I'm this old grandma. Instead of saying, hey, these gals are in the same stage of life as me, no
Yeah.
matter what our age is, we can relate to certain things. And so finding that community and just knowing, because it's funny to see people who are in their 40s or 50s. I'm not that far away from 40, but like their 50s or older, of
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, your 30s, it's just beginning. It's just now starting, where I feel like
Excuse
my
me, what?
expiration date is coming to an end. Not, you know what I mean? I think we just get in our head of like where the mile markers are, where the finish line is. But just like we talked about, your career path is different.
Yeah.
Your personal life is going to look different. I think about, for me, like some of the career things have worked out for me, but how I envision my personal life ain't the way I thought it would be. I went to college to get a degree, but I also thought I'd get an MRS degree, and I missed out on that. I walked across the stage, but I didn't walk down the aisle. So, like, I missed that, but I like to joke about it. It's my one bit. I just know that it can be isolating. And then we
Yeah.
have our people out there, I can't relate to this, but our people out there who are maybe married, they've
Mhm.
been married for a while, or maybe just got married. And now the pressure is, when are you having kids?
Yeah.
And you don't know people's journey. It could be,
Mm.
I'm not ready right now. It could be, I've been ready 10 years ago and I'm just not able to do that. Or
Yeah.
just so many different things. And so I think we can look to our friends and maybe they are having successes. We don't know how they get there. So it's just, it can be isolating, but like, get in the word and he will put people in your life. Get in the
Yeah.
word. And when I read different chapters all the time, or like I'll repeat a chapter from the Bible,
Hmm.
and each time I get something different out of it.
Yeah.
We're just here to say, like, we know what it is like to be in the middle, but then your point of finding fulfillment, finding contentment, if
Yeah.
you are, and I'm about to preach, but I'm preaching to Emily Nicole Stevens. I
Yeah.
don't know why I said my full legal name out there, but I'm preaching to me because I think, well, when I get a house, then I'll be happy.
Yeah,
When I get married, I'll be happy. But like if you are not content now, you are the same exact person, your just circumstances are different. And
right.
so there's always going to be something that you're chasing. If you're not blooming where you're planted now, what makes you think that having another person there is going to make it better? Or having a house. If you can't take care of your apartment, why now that you've got a house that you have to take care of, you'll be content with that. So that's just a big thing that I circle back to. If I am not content now, if I did do something else bigger, why would I be content then?
It's almost like when pastors have talked about singleness, being called to singleness in this moment or anything like that, how they talk about how you have to like fix your heart to be able to know yourself, love yourself in order to be able to love someone else. And so it's kind of like the same thing, even if you're not um relating it to singleness or anything like that, you still have to know yourself. You still have to be able to almost like personally develop yourself in order to be able to like do some of those things. Maybe if you are career focused and you want to climb up the career ladder and things along those lines, and you're not getting those promotions or you're not getting that next job or anything like that, what are you missing in yourself that is not necessarily clicking? Or what is being taught to you in this moment of maybe maybe I don't have everything figured out, or maybe I do need to, take some more time to develop in this area that I'm in currently in order to be able to succeed later. There's just different ways of how you can really try to personally develop yourself in order to be able to give or commit or just put out into the world. I think that that's something that definitely ties in with this topic for sure. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think that there's probably a lot of um, you, our listeners out there, who are just navigating the middle. So stick with us. We have more episodes coming up in this series. We're really excited about it just because I think that this is really going to hit home with you guys. It definitely is hitting home with us just because we are right there with y'all. Like, we are not ahead. We don't know everything. We haven't seen everything, including the wind. Like, we are still figuring out life right alongside you guys as well. So I think that this definitely um is a good series to have for all of us out there. You will get to hear many more stories from me and Emily and kind of know us on a personal level too. I think that they got to know us a little bit more on a deeper level in this episode, and that's what we want. We want to be able to connect with you guys and know that you guys have friends in us, even if we don't know each other or anything like that. I've definitely enjoyed this conversation.